State House fires back at opposition leaders, what they're not telling you. What happens when the opposition challenges State House publicly and State House finally answers? Tonight, we break down the explosive response from President Hakainde Hichilema's office following a joint letter from opposition leaders. A response calling for dialogue, but also raising serious questions about symbolism, political strategy, and who truly controls the national narrative. Is this a genuine invitation to unite the country? Or a calculated political move to neutralize rising pressure from the opposition? Let's unpack the strategy, the message, and the timing, because none of this is accidental. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. Well, what a week it's been across the continent. From economic summits to agricultural policy debates, there's been no shortage of political theater. But today, we're diving into something that has absolutely set the political establishment ablaze: State House versus the opposition, a battle of words that threatens to reshape the political landscape. Imagine this: the sun sets over the executive mansion, its golden light casting long shadows across manicured lawns where power brokers once walked in uneasy truce. Inside those historic walls, a decision is being made, a decision to break the silence, to shatter the carefully maintained facade of diplomatic restraint. The opposition has been firing volleys for weeks, accusations echoing through parliament chambers, splashed across newspaper headlines, trending on social media. But now the gloves are coming off. What happens when those who hold executive power decide they've had enough? When the measured responses give way to something far more direct, far more confrontational? What are the opposition leaders really afraid of? What truths have they been desperately trying to keep from the public eye? And more importantly, what happens when those truths come spilling out, not through leaked documents or whistleblowers, but from the very heart of State House itself? Is this a necessary defense of governance and accountability? Or is it a dangerous escalation that could plunge the nation into deeper political crisis? What secrets lie beneath the surface of these public accusations? And when the dust settles, who will still be standing? Factual foundation, background and timeline. The revelation came to light on Tuesday afternoon, when State House issued what can only be described as an unprecedented statement: 5 pages of detailed rebuttal, point-by-point dismantling of opposition claims that have dominated political discourse for the past month. The context? 3 weeks ago, leaders from the main opposition coalition held a joint press conference at Freedom Square, where they leveled serious allegations against the current administration. They claimed financial mismanagement of development funds, accused State House of circumventing parliamentary oversight, and suggested that several infrastructure projects had been awarded without proper tender processes. The opposition's case rested on what they called credible sources within government and documentation that, they insisted, proved systematic irregularities. Their press conference went viral, millions of views across social media platforms, intense debate in traditional media, and pressure mounting on State House to respond. Initially, the presidency took the traditional route: a brief statement expressing disappointment at unfounded allegations, a promise to address concerns through proper channels, and an appeal for political maturity. But as days turned into weeks, the opposition intensified their campaign. Town hall meetings, university campus rallies, a petition to the Anti-Corruption Commission. Then came the tipping point. Last Friday, the opposition leader appeared on the nation's most watched current affairs program, where he doubled down on every accusation and added new ones. He claimed to possess documentary evidence that would be released at the appropriate time. He questioned the president's commitment to transparency. He called for a parliamentary investigation. State House remained silent through the weekend, a silence that many interpreted as uncertainty, perhaps even guilt. Political analysts speculated. Social media erupted with theories. The opposition sensed blood in the water. But Monday morning, everything changed. Word began circulating in government circles that a comprehensive response was being prepared. Sources described frantic meetings, legal teams poring over documents, communications staff working through the night. By Tuesday afternoon, State House was ready to fire back. Direct evidence. The statement, delivered by the presidential press secretary at a packed media briefing, pulled no punches. For weeks, we have watched as the opposition has engaged in what can only be described as a coordinated campaign of misinformation, the press secretary began, her voice steady but her expression resolute. We have been patient. We have been measured. But patience should not be mistaken for weakness, and our silence should not be interpreted as an admission of wrongdoing. She continued, the opposition claims that development funds were mismanaged. Let me be absolutely clear, every single disbursement from the National Development Fund has been audited, documented, and reported to Parliament in accordance with the Public Finance Management Act. The opposition knows this because their own members sit on the Parliamentary Accounts Committee that reviews these reports quarterly. Then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the room. The press secretary displayed a series of documents on the screens behind her, actual committee meeting minutes, signed attendance records, and most damning of all, approval signatures from opposition MPs themselves. Here, she said, pointing to the screen, is the signature of the deputy opposition leader, approving the very project expenditures he now claims were irregular. And here, dated just 6 months ago, is his own statement in committee saying, and I quote, the financial management demonstrated in this quarter shows commendable adherence to fiscal responsibility. When pressed by journalists about the opposition's claims of having documentary evidence, the press secretary's response was sharp: we welcome the release of any legitimate documentation. In fact, we challenge the opposition to make public whatever evidence they claim to possess. But let me ask this, if they truly had credible evidence of wrongdoing, why wait? Why hold press conferences making vague accusations instead of submitting their evidence to the proper investigative authorities? The answer, I believe, is obvious to anyone paying attention. A journalist from the national broadcaster asked, Madam Press Secretary, the opposition leader has questioned the tender processes for infrastructure projects. How does State House respond to that specific allegation? The response was methodical. The tender processes for all government projects are managed by the Public Procurement Authority, an independent statutory body. The opposition's own government, when they were in power from 2016 to 2021, established the current procurement framework. They literally wrote the rules that we are now following. So when they question these processes, they are, in effect, questioning the very system they created. But perhaps the most explosive moment came when the press secretary addressed what she called the real agenda. Let's be honest about what this is really about, she said, her tone shifting from defensive to offensive. This is not about accountability. This is not about good governance. This is about a political party that lost an election trying desperately to regain relevance. They cannot win on policy, so they resort to allegations. They cannot inspire the public with their vision, so they attempt to tear down those who can. And when their tactics fail to gain traction, they escalate, they dramatize, they manufacture crisis where none exists. She concluded with a warning, State House has, we have been more than accommodating of legitimate opposition oversight. That is democracy. That is healthy. But what we will not tolerate, what no responsible government should tolerate, is malicious distortion of facts, deliberate misleading of the public, and frankly, the weaponization of public institutions for narrow political gain. The opposition has crossed a line, and we are putting them on notice. We will defend this administration's record with every available tool, legal and otherwise. Deeper analysis, implications and reactions. The State House response has sent political tremors across the nation, raising fundamental questions about the nature of opposition politics, the boundaries of legitimate criticism, and the appropriate use of executive authority in political disputes. Political analyst Dr. Amara Kante, speaking from the university's Department of Political Science, offered this perspective. What we're witnessing is a significant departure from traditional executive communications strategy. Historically, State House has maintained a posture of being above the fray, responding to opposition criticism through general statements or letting party functionaries handle rebuttals. This direct, aggressive pushback represents a new approach, and it's not clear yet whether it will strengthen or undermine public confidence in the presidency. The opposition, for their part, has responded with defiance. In a hastily organized press conference late Tuesday evening, the opposition leader characterized State House's statement as desperate deflection from a government with something to hide. If they are so confident in their innocence, he argued, why not support our call for an independent parliamentary inquiry? Why the personal attacks? Why the aggressive tone? These are not the responses of a clean administration, these are the responses of people who are worried about what a proper investigation might reveal. But not everyone in the opposition camp is united in this assessment. Sources within the coalition suggest that some senior members are uncomfortable with the confrontational approach, concerned that it may backfire politically. One opposition MP, speaking on condition of anonymity, told journalists, "Look, I think we need to be careful here. We made serious allegations, and State House has responded with what appears to be substantial documentation. If we can't back up our claims with equally solid evidence, we risk losing credibility not just on this issue but on everything we say going forward." The legal community has also weighed in. Constitutional lawyer James Kamara notes that while political rhetoric is protected speech, there are limits. Both sides need to be mindful that allegations of criminal conduct, corruption, theft of public funds, these are serious claims, carry legal consequences. If the opposition cannot substantiate their accusations, they may find themselves facing defamation suits. Conversely, if State House's documentation is misleading or incomplete, they expose themselves to even greater scrutiny. Civil society organizations have called for de-escalation. The National Civil Society Alliance issued a statement urging all political actors to prioritize the national interest over partisan advantage and calling for evidence-based political discourse rather than inflammatory rhetoric. But perhaps the most significant implication concerns the erosion of political norms. For decades, there has been an unwritten understanding that executive power should be exercised with restraint, that presidents and their offices should maintain a degree of separation from day-to-day political combat. This latest exchange suggests that those norms may be breaking down. Professor Linda Mansoray, a governance expert, warns, when State House engages in direct political warfare with the opposition, it changes the nature of our democracy. The presidency is not just another political office, it represents the state itself, the nation as a whole. When it becomes openly partisan, when it attacks rather than simply defends, we risk further polarizing an already divided political landscape. There are also questions about what comes next. Will the opposition release their supposed documentary evidence? Will State House follow through on implied legal action? Will Parliament intervene to mediate the dispute? And perhaps most critically, what does this mean for the possibility of constructive cooperation on the real challenges facing the nation: economic development, youth unemployment, healthcare, education? Some observers see this confrontation as a turning point, a moment when Zambian politics either pulls back from the brink and finds a way to channel disagreement productively, or accelerates into ever more hostile and destructive partisan warfare. The coming days will be crucial. Both sides have now staked out positions that will be difficult to retreat from without appearing weak. The media, the public, and civil society will all play roles in determining whether this becomes a constructive accountability moment or a damaging political crisis. Well, viewers, that's where things stand as of this recording. A political showdown with high stakes, serious implications, and no clear resolution in sight. Thank you so much for watching today's edition of InspirAfrica Official. This is exactly the kind of story we'll continue to follow closely, bringing you updates as this situation develops. The question now is, where do we go from here? What's your take on this confrontation? Does State House have the right to fight back aggressively against opposition accusations? Or should executive power be exercised with more restraint, even in the face of what they see as unfair attacks? I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts, analysis, and perspectives in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation about accountability, political norms, and how democracy should function when disagreements become this intense. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories that matter, more analysis that goes beyond the headlines. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay critical in your thinking. Don't just accept what you're told, ask questions, demand evidence, and hold all sides accountable. This is Nakash, signing off. See you tomorrow, and remember, the truth is always worth fighting for.